I'm Alessandra Barrett, Associate Director of Special Projects at the Journal of Commerce by S&P Global, and I'm at our 2024 Inland Distribution Conference with Jake Hoffman, Chief Technology Officer at Gnosis Freight. Jake, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
You bring a lot to the market. Your company offers both the execution side and the visibility side of the data equation. Your customers have validated you and the data that you provide quite highly and in different categories, but how do you avoid being seen as just one?
So the data piece is super important, and it obviously the software doesn't work without the data being good. And the data actually for us at Gnosis was just a byproduct of trying to create good software. We approached customers with software solutions, and we went to market to try to find data providers and people in the market that could help us to get there and give good data into the system, and really evaluated several and just decided it was better that we do it ourselves, because it became a big telephone game. It was the largest problem we had as a company that, hey, this ETA is wrong, or this milestone is incorrect, and so we decided to do it all ourselves. This was probably in 2019 or so when we did. And so when we went down the data path and we got integrations to the ocean carriers and the terminals and the rail carriers and everybody else, it powered the software and people realized how good the data was. And then now we're also lumped into that visibility category. So we have both the visibility and the execution, like two separate categories. And we've always tried to serve the BCO, has been our central customer. In doing so with the data and in working so closely with the BCOs on execution, being the arbiter of the data has also presented us with a unique perspective where we can also bring value to the drayage carrier or to the broker or to the freight forwarder and whoever it is. And it's a really powerful thing when you can serve the BCO, but then not just go to their partners and say, hey, we need you to play ball and give us your information, but we can also give them value because they get access to the platform too. They're partners and they get access to all the great data, and they realize that it kind of informs their operations and makes their lives easier. And so it's cool when you kind of do both at the same time. Just sometimes it's a little bit difficult to communicate that effectively.
Let's look at detention and demurrage, for example. Can you connect the dots on how you as a company are tackling that?
Demurrage and detention during the pandemic and during COVID became super high budget items for a lot of BCOs, freight forwarders and the like, just because of congestion, because of issues at the port, warehouse capacity and everything else. And we found a lot of our customers needed help, not so much doing anything fancy. There was no artificial intelligence needed or any of those kind of things. It was more about surfacing what was most expensive and just doing the searching for them. Because a lot of our customers realized we're searching through spreadsheets and emails and all these different data trails just to find out what was costing them money. Our CRO, Michael Rentz, always uses the phrase, there's certain things that computers are good at solving and there's certain problems that humans are good at solving. The identifying of the exceptions, so understanding what's costing somebody money, is something that computers are great at. They can sort through data, sort it. We make it red in our platform when it's more expensive. That we had to literally do a stoplight, red, yellow, and green. Since we can do those things, it identifies what the problem is and then allows the humans to do what they do best, which is to take that data and then act on it to fix the problem.
The rail piece has unique aspects that make it a bit of a black box for data. Can you describe the challenges of rail?
The unique thing about rail, and I'll speak specifically on international containers, so the ocean move, that the ocean carrier is booking a container to come to a port and then go inland on the rail. That's a little bit of a unique challenge for our customers, for shippers, and then for drayage carriers as well, because the ocean carrier is the customer of the rail carrier at that point. They're paying for it, and so therefore they get the immediate access to the data from the rail carrier, and they show certain milestones on their website or their API or whatever it may be. But then a lot of the super high granularity important pieces of information, like the last free day, or if a container is available at a rail yard and which rail yard it actually is at, comes directly from the rail carrier. And so that's where I think our team does a really good job of stitching together the data from the rail carriers themselves, from the ocean carrier, from satellite, from all these different things to kind of paint that full picture that maybe you don't get if you just go the standard track and trace route. To get that information from all the different sources, I use the analogy sometimes when I'm describing it to people not in the industry. It would be like actually tracking the plane that your letter is on instead of just getting the ETA from the USPS.
And to that end, BCOs want to know when their goods are getting to warehouse versus the standard of vessel in port. What's your approach there?
So we realize that everybody's supply chain is different. People have done forever the port ETA vessel predictions. When is a vessel going to pull up to a port and start unloading containers? But then the actual container getting to a warehouse, to your point, that's what BCOs and customers care about, is when are the goods going to be at the warehouse? How can they plan labor? How many people do they need to bring in to unload containers on any given day? And the way that we approach that is we have an overarching, ubiquitous predictive model that helps predict the vessel ETA, and then also the rail, if there is a rail leg, if a container is going inland on the rail, to predict that ETA to the final destination. And then each customer in themselves, once we have enough data for them, that's where we train a model to predict that DC ETA. And the example I always give is, somebody like a Walmart or an Amazon, their supply chain runs totally different than a random shipper that does one container a year. Because for that shipper that does 1 or 2 containers a year, that shipment is super important to them. They probably have a truck going to pick it up as soon as it gets to the port. But for somebody like a Walmart, Amazon, Target, whoever it is that has thousands and thousands of containers, maybe that container goes and sits at a yard, at a trucker's yard, or maybe it comes and gets delivered and then stays there before it gets unloaded at the warehouse for 2 weeks. And there's all these different ways that works. And so we kind of break up what is ubiquitous versus what is unique to each person's supply chain.
You recently announced an investment with Vista Equity Partners. Why now? Why Vista?
Investment for us is a little bit different. We've never taken money. We didn't go the traditional venture capital route, which I know in software and specifically in logistics technology over the past couple of years is probably the path less traveled. We did that on purpose. Austin McCombs, our CEO, was very adamant that we didn't go that route because while it's the largest industry in the world, it touches all pieces of the globe. It's a small industry. And so if you sell something that doesn't work, you break a promise to a customer or somebody, it's a small industry and the word gets around. And we wanted to make sure that our product was good, that people bought in, that it brought value to them before we started to raise money and hire a bunch of salespeople and do all these things. When we went through the process of finding a partner, Vista Equity Partners stuck out from their belief in the current system that we have, the way that we hire engineers, the way that we do things, and we're just pouring fuel on the fire. We're planning on doubling down on the strategy that we have because it's proven successful and to stay on that path.
Thanks so much for taking time to sit down with me, Jake.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
I've been speaking with Jake Hoffman, Chief Technology Officer for Gnosis Freight.